Hello, welcome back. Just real quickly, if you are new to the channel, yes, this is an English language practice channel. However, because there are so many good resources out there that help learners with grammar and vocabulary and all of the technicalities of speaking English, I'm going to leave that to those people who do that work really well. What I am interested in is helping anyone who's speaking the English language, including native speakers even, but especially those of us who are learning the language. My interest is in helping people develop confidence and develop a sense of creativity around expressing yourself in English. So, the reason why I share that is because if you are looking for technical help, um, which tense do I use, and all of that grammar structure, and this is not the channel for that. If you are looking for ways to become more interesting in conversation, if you are looking for ways to become a better conversationalist, if you are looking for confidence building suggestions and maybe skills and tips, then this is the place for you. So, I had a really interesting session with a student this week already. And I just wanted to come in and remind you of something that you may already know. And if you don't know this, or if you have forgotten this, um, then hopefully by my bringing it up to you, it will help you relax a little bit as you are speaking and practicing your language out there in the world. So, I I speak with many students who have this particular struggle, the struggle of feeling as though when we are speaking, we are not being understood. That's a very common struggle, and if you experience this anxiety yourself, you can just raise your hand wherever you are. So I just want to acknowledge that's very common. Even in our home language, there can be the concern that we're not going to be understood by the people who are listening to us. We may be discussing a topic that is controversial or a topic that is complicated. Maybe it's very technical. Maybe it's related to your professional interests or your professional skills, and you might be speaking with someone who does not have that background. Um, if we are expressing a controversial topic, one of the difficulties is that the people who are your audience, there's a lot of emotional defenses that come up when someone is expressing something we don't agree with. And when our emotions become a part of the conversation, it's difficult to hear what's actually being said. And that goes for us as the speaker. So when my emotion of anxiety is part of my conversation, when I'm expressing myself, my communication becomes less clear. There's a block that can happen. I might feel pressure to speak quickly, and by speaking quickly, I might forget the words. Like my stress levels will rise and interfere with how my brain is working. This is common. So I'd like you to remember that when you were a child in your language, whatever your first language was, you probably learned the words first before you learned where to put the words in the sentence structure. So, for those of you out there who are worried about getting the words in the right order grammatically, I understand this. And the more you practice and the more you make mistakes out loud, the more life will have an opportunity to correct you, to help you make corrections and help you understand when to use a word and when not to use a word, or when to structure something in the past tense and when to not structure it in the past tense. All of that technical detail comes with the development of our vocabulary and our desire to express ideas. So, for those of you who might be going into a conversation concerned about, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly because I don't know if it's grammatically correct, I am encouraging you to relax about the grammatical correctness and focus on building your vocabulary. Focus on having more words to express whatever the topics are that you'd like to talk about with other people. The vocabulary, at least the vocabulary is, I'm going to just say my opinion. The vocabulary is more important than perfect grammar. The grammar will come. But if you don't have enough words to use, that can be stressful because then people begin to feel like the person listening doesn't recognize how intelligent you actually are, which is that's important to a lot of people to be seen as the intelligent person that you are. That actually, I got a little sidetracked there. I believe that developing a vocabulary, a really robust vocabulary, a very full, rich vocabulary, that's what we need in order to be able to apply good grammar at the level that many of you are wanting to speak. Many of you at this point are beyond the stage of, hello, my name is. You'd like to talk about more complex ideas. You'd like to talk about the things that you have studied or the philosophical ideas that you are interested in. You might want to talk about the differences in spices, in cooking styles from different regions of the world. That takes a different kind of vocabulary than just the basic introductory vocabulary. And a lot of the students that I work with, they're operating at an intermediate to advanced level. They've done the basics and now they'd like to go deeper. So going back to the idea of feeling stressed about whether or not the people you are speaking to can hear you. In the beginning, and the beginning can be the first few years that you are working with a language or practicing a language, you will have the basic grammar structure down. If you've been sitting in class, if you've been practicing, you will have the basics down. And the basics are enough to communicate with someone. Some things that you can focus on to help you confront or deal with the anxiety of being understood or feeling misunderstood are that you can build your vocabulary, make sure that you've got a variety of words to use to express yourself. It's also important to, if you can keep things simple. So I love words, and you can tell by listening to me that I can go off on tangents, which means that I can get distracted by a thought. I'll start with one thought and I'll get distracted by another thought and go off in a different direction. If you've been watching my videos, you can experience this. You've seen me do this. You've heard me do this. It takes a lot of focus and concentration and patience to be willing to present one idea at a time. So if you are concerned about being understood in a conversation, focus on presenting one idea at a time, working that idea out in the conversation. So you present your idea, the other person in the conversation is able to speak back to you what they understood, what their questions are about that idea. And then when everyone feels satisfied, then you can move on to the next topic within that idea. So, for example, one of the students that I worked with last week has a very strong medical background. So, in practice, I asked this student to explain to me how sugar affects the body, for example. And there are so many ways that we can talk about that subject. But in order for the student to be able to focus, and in order for me to be able to understand, we just focus on one part of that conversation at a time. For example, what does sugar consumption, or what does eating too much sugar do to the weight of the body? That would be a way of focusing your conversation so that you have a very narrow set of ideas to work with and a very specific set of vocabulary words to work with. And then once we understand what that part of the topic is about, then we can move on to the next topic within that subject. That's very abstract, I know. But really, my point, the thing that I really want you to understand is it is possible to be misunderstood at any time in a conversation. When we're speaking in our own language, you can probably think of many times when you were misunderstood and you had to go back and work it out with the person or people you were speaking to. Adding a new language adds another layer of, it just makes it even more possible and likely that we'll be misunderstood because we could choose the wrong word, we could put the word in the wrong place in a sentence, and a lot of other things can happen to interfere with our ability to be understood. However, having conversations in English is also the same as having conversations in other languages because we can ask questions for clarification. We can say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant by that. Can you say it again? Or can you tell me what that word means? Or can you say that in a different way? These are all things that I say in English conversations when I don't understand someone. And they can be useful tools and useful skills to develop when we're having conversations in other languages as well. Okay, so thank you for hanging in there with me through this part of the recording. I want to add, these recordings that I do, right now, I don't write a script for them. I have an experience with a student and I come into the video and I do my best to share my understanding of the experience in a way that you can take the information and use it to help yourself as you're building your language skills. So my conversations are not going to be perfect conversations right now. And I'm not sure that I'm going to script them in the future. I'm considering this. Certainly, if you leave a message in the comment sections and ask me for help on something specific, that gives me something specific to respond to, and that's much easier to speak about and speak to. So if you have specific challenges that you're working with, please leave them in the comments and I will do my best to help. Until then, if you are stopping by and listening to the videos, I hope that you're finding something useful, even if it's just one sentence that I say that's useful to you, helpful, that I have done good work for that video. But I'm also saying this to ask you to please be patient with me as I learn how to speak to you in a way that's helpful to you without having feedback. Okay, without having your participation. Okay, so thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves out there, and I will be back with another message or recording when the time is right. That's what I've got to say for now. Thank you so much. Be brave and keep practicing.